Hello guys and welcome back to Project Monaco with me, PugGaming, and today is episode 15. But before we get into the video, I just want to give a big shout out to everyone who's still following the channel. Despite the lack of content, things have been rather hectic in life as of late. But things are going to change very shortly and we'll get into that a bit later on in the video. But as you can see, in episode 14 we started to lay down the casino square with the fantastic assets from Mac Welshman. They really do look stunning. And today is all about the details. So let's jump in, having a look at the in real life map here of Casino Square. You can see we've got the foundation down already. We've got the main three buildings placed down, the roads around there. We need to detail this garden section here, and there is still quite a lot to add in, and we've got a few little techniques to go through today that really did help bring this area to life. But it really is starting to come alive. This sky mirror we'll look at a bit later on, another astonishing asset from Mac Welshman, really does become a centre point for this area. And well, you'll see a bit later on when we look at this in a bit more detail, but it really does bring this area to life. Now this particular episode probably took around 12 to 15 hours worth of recording, obviously cut down for this episode, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to complete certain sections. I didn't want to just throw out a video because I'd done 10 hours of work. I just wanted to spend that little bit more time to really complete the area that we have completed today. I will warn you though, there will be another episode of this area where we'll be concentrating more on the hotel, which is obviously a bit more in the background there. But this was all about the detail, today's episode. And I wanted to complete this area here we're looking at, and also around the cafe as well, just so we can secure that sort of section. And you know, 75% of the area is then done and we can complete the hotel. So that's the plan for today. We'll be going through that, and yeah, really happy with how things are going at the moment. And let's jump straight in here. So we're going to start straight away on the Casino Square main section here by the roundabout. Now this area itself was very troublesome. When I say troublesome, I mean when you're looking at the map of this area, which you can see top left hand corner now, there is a lot of road, but there is also a lot of parking areas as well. So there's a couple of ways I thought of doing this. One was to replace the whole of this roundabout with invisible roads and place down just some proper asphalt or some decals to represent the road, and then obviously put another road on top, which will be the invisible road to allow cars to move. However, that was going to be a lot of effort. I didn't know how that would look. So in the end, what we end up doing is using the proper asphalt here, and I actually end up using it via the procedural objects because you can get some better shapes. And I've also found that, I'm not sure if it's just my build in particular, but adding on decals on top of procedural object based productions, or whatever you want to class them as, means that the decals do work a lot better. I'm not sure, as I say, it might be just the way that I've been using them in my game itself, but it does seem that they work a lot better. And what I like about this as well is they don't add to the prop count, which when you're doing a lot, which we will be doing, really does help a lot. Now obviously we are going to have the raise with the curb as well, which I'm not too bothered about, to be honest. I know obviously in real life Monaco this area is all one level, but we've got to be realistic in this build. We've got to do what works for us, and we've got to do what's actually possible. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on these sort of areas because it's not really something that's going to be seen a lot of. I mean, if you're looking at this area once detailed, you're not going to really spend a lot of time looking around and saying there's a curve that's raised where it shouldn't be, etc. This is more about just getting the basics down there and sort of moving forward from there. But anyway, whilst we detail this section, adding in some of the road markers, etc., just want to catch up with you with regards to my current timescales, etc. So obviously, as I said previously, I really wanted to get back into doing weekly, fortnightly videos, which has been very difficult over the past couple of months really. Things are looking better now. In real life is slowing down, and there is a lot more time on the horizon that will be able to be spent doing videos, and a lot more time in terms of possibly looking at doing some live streams. So if you guys are interested in seeing me do some live streams, not sure on what platform yet, Twitch, Mixer or YouTube, or maybe all of them, we'll see what happens. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that, because it is something I really did enjoy doing. I've done quite a lot previously, well, not quite a lot, but I did do a lot of episodes on The Walking Dead when we was working on that, and it seemed to be received quite nicely from a lot of people, and it's really nice to be able to interact with people there and then. So let me know your thoughts on possible live streams. I'm happy to do some, and also it'll work quite nicely because there's going to be a lot of episodes, I think, here where it's going to be requiring a bit of touching up here and there, maybe changing traffic, etc. And I think that'll work quite nicely with a live stream as well. So yeah, let me know in the comments section below if you'd like to see some live streams. But anyway, back to the build. We are going to place down another asset from Mac Welshman, and it's the Sky Mirror Fountain. This, look at this, this is sensational. If you look at this versus the real actual version, it is spot on. And what I love best is you can see here on the actual mirror, it reflects what you see behind it. I don't mean in real game, in real life, obviously that's not possible, I believe, in terms of the physics of the game, but the way the asset's been built, you can see that there. So it's on the workshop now, I believe, or within the next 24 hours. So if you guys want to place this down, you'll have a little bit of Monaco in your build without even knowing, because on that mirror, you'll see the casino square front. And what I do love about some of these asset creators is they give you the opportunity to still work with it. I mean, Mac Welshman left this area here perfectly for you to place your own plants in. So that's what we're doing here, just putting some of the plants in. And obviously, depending on the time of the year and different events, these flowers and arrangements do change. So you have the ability to do what you want here. You can add some flowers in there. You can leave it as it is, whatever you fancy, really. And that is one difficult but also exciting thing about a build such as Project Monaco, because you can look at one picture, you can look at one part of Google Earth or Google Maps, whatever you're using, and each image will be slightly different because things change. Plants die, events happen, and yeah, things are always different. So you have the opportunity here, and it gave me a bit of freedom to really put down what I thought was the best for this scenario. And it might change, you know, we can always go back to that and change things if we want to. Now, moving on. So we placed down these side paths with the proper asphalt to create the opening of the roads like it is in real life. But the curbs did start to bother me. I must admit, the curbs did start to bother me. So what we've done here is we're using the proper asphalt, but in procedural objects mode. So this now allows us to change the shape, the look of these proper asphalts, and we're able to just raise it up enough from the road itself to the top of the curb to now create the sense of a smooth curb, or you know, no curb at all, depending on how you want to look at it. Now this was difficult, I must say, and I could have spent hours and hours and hours getting it to perfection, but what I got was good enough for what I wanted, if that makes sense. I could have been a perfectionist and gone back and changed every single bit to be perfectly in place, but that would have really ruined this build, and I probably wouldn't be doing this video right now. You'd probably be still waiting in the wings for that. But we'll do a bit more of that a bit later on, so we'll go through that in a bit more depth a bit later. But what we're working on here now is the first stages of detailing for this episode 15. We are detailing the area in between the casino and the Café de Paris. So the plan here is to pretty much just make things look as close as possible to real life, as I see it at that moment. So it does seem like this little corridor area is split by some plants in the middle, and obviously the side towards the casino is where some shops are, some very, very fancy shops, as you can probably see from some of the signs which on the building. So it was trying to replicate that. And what I do love at the moment is there's a lot of different types of flowers and planters around in the workshop, which made this so much easier. I think these ones we're placing down now are actually from the recent updates, so they're actually default props. So again, that helps as well, because we know they're going to be good for the game. It's not going to kill the game itself in terms of you know, being too highly dense for the game to manage. But what we're able to do here is really replicate different types of planters and just bring this area to life. There is a lot of foliage around here, there's a lot of plants, a lot of planters. So this area we're trying to make as close as possible to what there is in real life. One thing I do have trouble with sometimes is when I do create these areas, it sometimes looks like there's not enough there. I'm not sure if anyone else can replicate that as well, but sometimes it seems that there's not enough being put down. It seems a little bit open, but a bit later on you'll see, as soon as we get the decals down on the ground as well, which does sharpen up this area, and then obviously once we get people walking around, it does come to life. So I think when you're studying a map or an area for too long and you're trying to replicate it to, down to the T, it does cause some issues, and I think that's what I had some problems with previously, where I was looking a little bit too much, and because certain assets or certain areas I couldn't replicate 100%, sometimes it didn't look too right. But when you come out of the game, go back into it after a couple of days or so, even sometimes a couple of hours, you look at your area and you think, actually no, that does look right, it was just because X, Y and Z. So that's something that I've had to overcome doing Monaco, because despite I've been using a bit of creativity in some areas, some of them you have to do as you see it, otherwise you're not replicating Monaco. So that's one of the problems I have had, but we're overcoming that, and it's not, it's a nice problem to have, because we are building something that's already there. So we have got the easy side of things, that we know what we're going to have to put down, but sometimes, like I said, the actual props that are there we can't replicate because they're not on the workshop. So that's when the imagination comes in, and it does help. But I must say, the pressure of this build is starting to get there a little bit now. I mean, the assets that are being created for the project itself are at such high quality that it's really forcing me to do the best I can. I mean, obviously each build I do try my hardest to create it as best I can, but the pressure of how good these assets are coming over to me really are excelling my actual work ethics, and I'm really pushing the limits of the game and my own abilities here, learning new techniques, and each episode I'm picking up new ideas, and I'm hoping you guys are as well, because doing things like you saw earlier with the curbs and the ploppable asphalt and working with terrain, there's not a lot of projects out there that are working a lot of different terrains. So I'm really, I'm working from a clean slate here and trying different methods out, which I hope you guys are picking up on and now fulfilling yourself in your own builds, because life isn't flat. You look at most areas, and there are obviously places that are flat. Obviously some parts of America are very flat, and building your sort of block skyscraper areas wouldn't work on hills, and it probably wouldn't look realistic because it's not how it happens. But certainly in Europe, life is not flat. There is a lot of different areas that are built on a lot of terrain, and now we know we can do that a bit better in the game itself, especially with mods like Move It and Procedural Objects. It just makes life easier, and we are able to create these sensational looking builds. And I've seen a lot of other YouTubers working with some terrains as well, and together we are really working out the best way to do so. And I'm sure further down the line there'll be new techniques that we all learn, and I could probably redo Monaco and make it look even better, but as things are right now, it really is working nicely. But anyway, back to the build. Talking about earlier when we was using the ploppable asphalts to create this area. So again, we are trying to just make the impression that this road area is actually bigger than it is. We are going to end up dropping a lot of parked cars around as well, but one thing I didn't actually catch on camera, which I'm pretty annoyed about, I lost the footage unfortunately, but these cars you see here on the roundabout, I didn't place them. They are working in-game in-game parking. What we use is one of the parking blocks, and pretty much what we've done is we sunked it into the ground, so the actual lines disappeared because this area doesn't have lines. And what that has allowed us to do now is, as you can see there, that proves it as well, you can see that these cars are actually parked here. So once this area builds up, we'll see cars moving around, parking in this area, just making it look more realistic, because in real life Monaco, the car park there is first come first serve, and people park there. So I really did like that, and I didn't want to have propped vehicles there. I could have done, I'm not too sure how often these vehicles will move once in game, but I do like that idea, and it was something I really wanted to try and achieve, and I'm really pleased with how it's gone. And you'll see as well in the background, it's not just on the roundabout, but on the pathways up there as well. We've put down the car parks as well, and it just imitates more realism in the build, because rather than just plopping down prop cars, there is the ability now that you will see cars moving along. Obviously the only downside to that is the cars parked up on the curbs will give a slight imitation of floating, just because they're going from the road to the position of where I've placed the actual car parking. So there will be a sort of a slow incline and moving from the road to where they park. But that is life. That is the game itself. We can't do much for that. But really happy of how this area is starting to come about now. And you can see now I've placed down all of those ploppable asphalts. You can see that this area is actually looking more like that picture we saw earlier. Things are looking more realistic. And from the top, obviously you can't see the curbs because they're covered up, and we will eventually cover the rest up as well. But they do, from the bird's eye view, it does really look like the shape that it should be in terms of the concrete versus the pathway. So now let's move over to the Café de Paris of Monte Carlo. And what we're doing here is we're pretty much just going to detail this area. Again, trying to replicate it as close as we can to this zone. And I mean, look at this asset. This is ridiculously good. The build itself is spot on, as always, from Mac Welshman. He's even put the little Monaco tables in there, which are available as props, which have little Monaco menus on there as well, which is really, really cool to add. But yeah, I do like to do some research in towards the builds. We looked a bit last time is in regards to the actual casino, but the actual cafe itself is quite an interesting one. It's been around since 1868, where it was a very small cafe, and it's just over the years grown and grown to now become a very focal point for people coming to Monaco. It's one of those places people want to say they've gone into, had a coffee, had a drink, even ate. I mean, the food there, I imagine, is absolutely phenomenal. And it's a very nice place. This whole square itself is just like a nice meeting area. And I mean, I've not personally been to Monaco. I'm hoping to be able to at some point next year to really see the build in real life. But yeah, I really do enjoy understanding some of the history, and it's nice as well to understand why that is like that, and why this area is as it is. Obviously a very, very touristy area here. It's one of the areas that everyone tends to go to if you're going to visit Monaco in general, and why not? It's a very fascinating area. It looks sensational, and it's just really nice to be able to build something that people would look at and know what it is. I think that's what I was hoping to achieve with this project itself, is replicating something that you can show someone even if they don't know a lot about the world, but they'll see it and they'll know what it is. And this area is why that pressure's been so high as well, because this area is very, very popular in Monaco and people know this area by looking at it. So I wanted to get it as close as I could and, you know, try and excel myself with this build itself. So once we've completed this area, there's one more bit we're going to work on, which you'll see very shortly, which is just the garden area, a bit more to the upper end of the cafe. And then next week we are going to do a couple of things. Firstly, episode 16 is going to consist of the Hotel de Paris, which is again a very luxury area and very expensive, I imagine, to stay. And there's going to be some interesting terrain work as well there, because we've got to fit in some shops as well within the actual build, which is going to be a struggle, I think. It's going to be something that's going to take a lot of time to get used to and work out the best way to do so. So that will be a very interesting episode just for that factor. And beyond that, we're going to try and do our best to increase the population in this area. I'm going to probably have to end up hiding away some buildings inside these areas because there's not enough people around here, and I know a lot of you have been repeatedly saying that it looks too quiet and there's not enough people in the area to really excel the area. So that's a problem we're going to overcome in episode 16, I hope. It might end up having to be something we do in the future as well, because obviously we haven't really put down a lot of areas for residential. So that's something we will probably do a bit later on. But yeah, episode 16, which I'm hoping will be out in the next week or two, will be the completion of the hotel area and the finer details of some detailing around here. And then we're going to move away from the casino. The casino square will be done in that respect, and we're going to move on to something very different, but I'm not going to tell you about it yet. We'll throw some hints in on the next episode 16, and see how that goes. But as you can see here, I did already place down some events generators as well. As you will see, there are people starting to come to this area. As I say, you can see from the population, there's nowhere near enough to generate the huge swarm of people that I want to have in this area. This is going to be one of the highest zones for people to be around. So we'll be throwing a lot more events generators in, and also, you know, bringing in some of the population into this zone as well to really replicate the busyness that this area does have. But for now, you'll have to just cope with what you see in the cinematics a bit later on. But as you can see, people are slowly starting to come here, and I know ways of getting around this. It's just going to take a bit of time to get there. But that pretty much rounds up episode 15 of Project Monaco. And again, guys, apologies for the lack of content. We will slowly get there. I promise you, we are moving closer to having a video at least every fortnight. And like I said, let me know your thoughts on doing some live streams. And if so, if you do want to see some, what platform do you prefer to watch it on? Because that is one thing that I'm considering. We can do it on a couple, like I did with the previous live streams. But yeah, keep me posted on that. And let me know what you think of the Casino Square. How's it going? What do you want to see? Is there anything that's been missed out that you think is needed to be included in the build? Let me know. And also, I want to know what you guys want to see next. I know what I want to do next, but let me know in the comments section below. What do you want to see us move on to next in terms of the project itself? And don't forget, guys, follow my Twitter, follow my Facebook. All my social medias have active content on, a lot of teasers. And if you want to as well, jump into the Discord. You can chat to us all directly. Happy to answer any questions you may have about the game or Project Monaco. And yeah, other than that, guys, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll speak again very soon. Thanks for watching, and all the best.